Well, he would have been here sooner, but
he was eating another cobra heart.
He was hiking in the Andes and had to single-handedly rescue a crashed plane full of survivors.
I had to confer with the Dalai Lama before I came in.
Dude,
attorney Robert Schuerger joins us.
I don't know how often you hear it, Robert, but especially like Doug Rogers is the main guy.
Doug's the best.
The number of commercials that we get texted to go to warforyou.com. One was about his pop quiz today.
Yeah.
It was like, is Lewis changing the answers to your pop quiz and you can't possibly win? Warforyou.com.
I'm on it.
Did your kid slip and fall in elementary school? We'll make sure that lunch lady never mops another floor again. Warforyou.com.
I mean, they write them. They come in constantly. It's hilarious.
I was asked about a recent case in China where a husband married a woman. They had a baby, and the husband said, "This baby doesn't look like me, and it doesn't look like you. What's going on here?" And they found out that the woman had about 20 plastic surgeries, look nothing like she did currently.
Oh.
And the husband sued in Chinese court. The husband sued the woman for $120,000 for fraud.
Oh, wow.
And the Chinese court awarded it to him.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
I said, here in the United States, it's more like buyer beware. But,
Right, yeah.
But, the Chinese justice system looked a different way on that one.
We can divorce, but the implants are staying with me. I bought those.
So, did you happen to see the story about Gilbert Arenas from the NBA and his fake relationship to get his engagement ring back?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you know who Gilbert is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he had gotten engaged, and I think it lasted, like a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
And they called it off, and she still had this massive diamond ring of his. And so he faked wanting to make up and having her come back, and he played the role for like 6 months until he was able to swap the ring with a fake and get it back, and then he kicked her to the curb. Could he get in trouble for that?
No, technically that's a gift that he gave to her.
Yeah.
So
I mean, faking that whole thing.
In that situation, I wouldn't consider that to be fraudulent inducement because technically, he could say he was of the mind that they were going to get back together.
Yeah, I guess so.
But isn't the engagement ring, it's called a conditional gift. So if we get engaged and you decide to break up, that's my property.
Correct.
Okay. Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
So legally the woman has to give the ring back.
Yeah, I mean, if you go through a whole legal lawsuit and all that, yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, if you get married and you break up a day later, different story, you went through the process.
yeah, that could be considered marital property, which then we'll have to have a discussion about.
Wait, but I get
that
a ring.
asset.
I get a giant ring, and then he breaks up with me. I get to keep it, right? It was a
Ooh.
gift.
Oh,
You broke the promise, not me. So I get to keep the gift.
Yeah, that's why it's a gift. So it's technically, if you want to give it back to him, possession is what 9/10 of the law,
right?
So you'd have an argument that it was a gift, but then you'd get into the details of how long did you have that gift? Was it 1 day? Was it 1 year? Was it 2 years?
I don't care if I have it for 5 minutes. I'm keeping it.
Well, if it's big enough, hire me and we'll fight to make sure you can keep it.
We just got a text. Your new nickname is Sugar Daddy.
Yeah.
I love it.
I will tell you a story about that Sugar Daddy. Years ago, when Spice and Sugar used to have their Halloween party, one of the outfits that I got was a Sugar Daddy costume with the Sugar Daddy candy bar. But for some reason, I put a wig on and like a huge fake mustache. And I mean, I must have had a very, very good time.
What's wrong with the current mustache?
Yeah, exactly. Back then I didn't have the facial hair, right? It wasn't good. And the next year, I look up on the sign that they had put together to promote the next year's Halloween party, and there's me front and center with a beer in hand and a Sugar Daddy outfit with this like weird smile and you could tell I'm having a blast. The mustache is like half off. I've got a wig on, and I asked the owner. I said, "What?" I said, "Are we trying to scare people from coming to this year's party? We're trying to induce them to come in." So I love that nickname. We're going to embrace that.
All right, cool.
I'll be your sugar daddy. So here's a question, and I hate even bringing this up because it will be political, but I don't think...
We're just trying to figure out the crime.
The NDAs happen all the time. You ask people to sign non-disclosure agreements all the time. If there's a breakup or whatever, sometimes the NDA is part of that. You can't talk about it. So a lot of people don't understand the crime in Donald Trump paying off Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
And I kind of tried to explain this to Rick this morning, and I grasped the concept a little bit. But a lot of people are going, well, NDAs happen all the time. Why is this such a crime? So where is the issue in this?
And this is where the issue gets technical, and the argument is whether it's an overreach by the prosecution because of the nuanced technicality of it. The NDA itself is not the illegal part of it. What the issue they're trying to say is that Donald Trump utilized federal campaign money from a campaign account to reimburse Michael Cohen for the $130,000 that he paid to Stormy Daniels. So therefore, what they're charging him with is they're trying to charge him with a federal campaign crime by utilizing federal quote-unquote campaign dollars to reimburse Michael Cohen for paying Stormy Daniels. So,
as opposed to being out of his own pocket.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
If it was out of his own pocket, we wouldn't even be talking about this from a standpoint. But the fact that he utilized federal campaign dollars brings in the whole jurisdiction of the federal government, because those campaign dollars, are quote unquote governed by the federal government.
But isn't part of it also too, you're trying to sway an election by not letting, you were trying to bury that story so it didn't sway the election.
So in this case, that's what the prosecution's argument is. The prosecution's argument is because the federal campaign dollars were used, that was utilized as a campaign as a campaign tactic, not something personal. Whereas Donald Trump's team is arguing, no, that to enforce that NDA was to protect my family, protect Melania, the kids, and the reason why Stormy Daniels was paid that money was to protect a quote unquote lie that they had been together, but he did not want to hurt his family. So that's how the prosecution and defense's arguments are diverging. The jury obviously make a decision here on whether the issue is very nuanced. I mean, myself and I think a number of other legal scholars think that it's very it's an overreach to really try to say the federal campaign funds and then tie that into a federal crime. But in this heightened campaign season, a lot of these things get taken out of context and charges get drummed up.
Okay, so Trump just has to prove that the money came out of his pocket and not the campaign funds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's clear checks were written. It's clear money exchanged hands. So it's not like he could say it never happened. The key is how did it happen and why did it happen, and convincing the jury that it was not something that had to do with a campaign tactic, therefore trying to sway an election, but something that had to do as a business deal in terms of protecting his image as Trump and his family.
All right. So this is something very close to all of us, our audience especially. We go to a lot of concerts, and it has to do with Live Nation and Ticketmaster and fees and how much money they're sucking out of people. And the U.S. Justice Department is about to file an antitrust lawsuit to break up Live Nation and Ticketmaster. They're going to do this. They're going to file this today. The DOJ says Live Nation has used unfair means to squash competition in the live event ticketing industry. And, man, I mean, they've been sucking money out of me for years.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2010, when Live Nation merged with Ticketmaster, it promised the DOJ that it wouldn't punish concert venues that use competing ticket platforms, and they may not have been entirely honest in that moment. Ticketmaster owns between 70 and 80% of the market for primary ticket sales in the U.S.
Yeah. After the past few years of dealing with Ticketmaster and dealing with those fees, I think it's time to break it up.
Yeah, because you've dealt with it.
Oh, yeah. It firsthand experience a while back. The transfer fees. The fees for not being allowed to transfer your tickets. If you do transfer your tickets, how much money you have to pay. I mean, most of the time you're better off just eating the tickets than trying to sell them.
Well, yeah, because
the
problem is, one, it's huge false advertising. Because you say, tickets for that show or that event are only $70. Okay, well, I want 4 tickets. Okay, well, now there's a $15 transfer fee on each ticket. So you hit me for $60 extra to transfer 4 tickets.
That's
Back
crazy.
in the day, I almost understood it when you had to pay someone to physically go pull the tickets, put them in an envelope, and mail them out. I understand the fee, but now you're charging me an admin fee to send it to my email or phone. You're charging me a transfer fee when I know you're just going to click 4 things and transfer one time. You're not transferring each individual piece each time. And again, it's $15 to click your mouse on a...
I mean, yeah.
No. That's why competition is necessary, because right now it's the only game in town.
Yeah.
So they can corner you and they can charge you all these fees, and you can do nothing about it.
No.
Because you're trying you have to utilize the service.
I have a question based on the new Ashley Madison documentary. It's on Netflix.
I did see that the Columbus area code has the highest traffic for an Ashley Madison site in the country.
Yes.
Columbus, Ohio is the biggest cheaters in the country.
Yeah.
No, obviously, like New York and L.A., they have more people, but if you're talking about number of adulterers per 1,000 people, Columbus, number 1, Cleveland is 13th. Cincinnati is 7th. So we have 3 of the top 13 cities in the Ohio.
All right, Ohio.
There's something in the water here,
Right?
So my question is, obviously there have been lawsuits against Ashley Madison over the data breach. It ruined people's lives. You can debate the immorality of it all, and whether they just got what they deserved or what. But anyway, people sued. There were like a couple suicides attributed to this Ashley Madison data breach. So they never found out who the impact team or the hackers were. They never found out. However, so people went after the company for not securing their data. Now, my question is, you get these, I'll get a notice like from AT&T is, your data was breached or whatever, and now your social security number and all the stuff's out there, and we'll offer you credit protection for a year, free. Is that all they're obligated to do? Or if I guess you have to prove damages to be able to sue, but it's such a huge thing out there, data breaches.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, you just don't know where your info's going. And the more you put out there, the more that's going to get breached.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And normally companies like AT&T, that's called a CYA, right? They're putting a letter out there to see if you bite, because what's coming up as a class action lawsuit, they probably foresee coming down the line.
Okay.
Experian got sued a while back.
Yeah.
Verizon got sued. So they do have a responsibility. If they're taking in that type of personal information, those companies have a responsibility to protect that. When that protection fails and a breach happens, a class action lawsuit becomes a real problem for those corporations. So what they attempt to do is send out those types of letters to say, hey, we recognize we had an issue. We're here offering you, a year's worth of credit protection, so that when a class action does hit, they have some plausible deniability to say, look, we knew it happened, and here are the steps we took to try to rectify it, rather than being sued and then rectifying it.
If you accept that year's worth of credit protection or whatever, does that mean you cannot get involved in the civil suit or be part of a settlement?
You could still get involved in the civil suit and the settlement. The key is making sure that within that documentation, you're not signing away your rights to enter into the class action or a civil or a civil suit. Normally what happens is they'll try to give you a monetary amount that says, in lieu of not going to the class action, we'll give you $500.
I'll tell you what. Class action lawsuits are the way to go. I can't wait till I get my piece of that Camp Lejeune money. I was nowhere near there, but they're not going to know.
Like, I've got a settlement, I think, once from Amazon over their ebooks or something. They were overcharging for books or ebooks, and you get a settlement. It's like $24 or something like that.
And Kelly, Lewis, you hit it on. Those are two different things. The Camp Lejeune piece, actually, the people, those settlements will be a lot higher because that's what's called a mass tort.
Oh, wow.
So when it's a mass tort, those people, the threshold's a lot higher in terms of the dollars you can receive. Kelly, what you're talking about, like with AT&T and the class action, generally, that's really a hammering on the company. But the actual monetary value of what the people get in a class action is a lot lower.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Camp Lejeune's like the Aaron Brockovich PP. Thing that went on.
A mass tort really is where people are, people have been physically harmed. Something has physically hurt them, whether that be a prescription pill that went awry or a Camp Lejeune.
I hate this.
Ticketmaster just hurts your soul.
We just got you in here. It feels like, and we got to go to break. I know you have a career and a job, but if you want to hang out, man, you hang out as long as you want.
Yeah.
But our time goes so fast with you.
Are you pissed at Ticketmaster? We'll make sure they can't even sell tickets to a county fair.
There
warforyou.ca.
There's another one. There he is. Oh my God.
Coming up next, the 3 things you need to know.
Do you have really vivid dreams, or do you act out your dreams? If so, that could signify health issues. We'll talk about it coming up next.
Uh-oh.
Traffic and now, the 3 things you need to know before you go.
The Ohio House yesterday passed a bill that increases the prison time for killing someone while driving drunk. It's House Bill 37. It now goes to the Senate. It would impose mandatory minimum prison time based on prior offenses and blood alcohol level. So generally, there would be a mandatory minimum sentence of up to 8 years in prison for an aggravated vehicular homicide if the person has no prior offenses and had a blood alcohol level between 0.08% and 0.17%. So it gets pretty specific. But I guess the best you can do on a drunk driving vehicular homicide is 8 years. That's the least amount of time you'll go to jail.
Wow.
Which sounds all right to me. I feel like you get behind the wheel drunk and you kill someone, you got to pay. You got to pay for that.
Yeah,
you're nodding yes, Robert.
That's one of the best pieces of legislation that's been passed so far this year. In this session.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Daily and near daily marijuana use is now more common than similar levels of drinking in the United States. That's according to an analysis of national survey data over 4 decades. Now, alcohol is still more widely used, but in 2022, an estimated 17.7 million people used marijuana daily or near daily, compared to 14.7 million daily or near daily drinkers. So way more people are smoking weed every day than are drinking every day. Research shows that high-frequency marijuana users are more likely to become addicted to marijuana, and it increases the risk of developing cannabis-associated psychosis, which is a severe condition where a person loses touch with reality.
Yeah, but I think if you smoke weed every day, people think of it like you're smoking a cigarette. If you're the only one in your house and you're by yourself drinking, there are people that suggest you might have a problem and should seek help.
I mean, I don't. The whole, I've read so much about addiction. And when it comes to marijuana, you can get psychologically addicted to it. And I guess that's just it.
Pretty difficult to get over.
All right.
The psychological addiction.
But there is no physical addiction. I mean, you could smoke weed every day for a straight year and then stop, and you would not have any kind of physical,
Let's start the calendar and see.
The weed!
That means people could be driving a lot slower on the roads now, right?
Well, that's just the thing, Your drunk drivers are doing 70 in a 35, and the high drivers doing 35 in a 65.
Yeah, there are also dumb drivers that drive the speed limit in the left lane, which that needs to be a law that goes into play.
All right, let's talk about this dream situation. A new study suggests vivid nightmares could be an early indicator of an autoimmune disease like lupus. So they did this big research at the University of Cambridge and King's College, and they found that over 60% of lupus patients who experienced hallucinations as part of their disease reported having vivid nightmares before the onset of lupus. So an interesting thing is that people also, some people struggle with something called dream enactment, which can also indicate health issues. And dream enactment is when you act out your dreams while you're asleep.
Oh, while you're asleep.
The Washington Post detailed the story about a man named Wes Mills. He's a contemporary artist. He has works displayed at the Whitney and MoMA. And about 10 years ago, as detailed by his wife, Wes started acting out his dreams. She says he would run in bed like he was escaping an attacker.
Wow.
One time he was apparently having a dream where he was feeding a little raccoon because he got up and was like, cupped his hand and was asking this little raccoon to eat out of his hand.
It's like sleepwalking a little bit.
A little, but it doesn't. Sleepwalking doesn't happen in REM sleep.
Right.
And this is happening in REM sleep. So I guess one time he vividly strategized in bed with fellow inmates about a prison riot. This was a huge dream he was having, and his wife sat there and listened to his entire conversation with other inmates in his dream about this prison riot. So 10 years after these dream enactments started, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Oh, my gosh.
And they say it could be an indication. Now, it could also be an indication of severe obstructive sleep apnea. That could cause you to have these dream enactments. But that would be so freaky if your significant other was acting out their dreams in bed.
They could get a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah, especially depending on what you're doing.
No kidding.
I've tried to act out my dreams. My wife just kicks me and says, get away from me.
All right, those are your 3 things.
There's Boba Flex on the Blitz.
Bubba Flex on your morning blitz, 8-11. Thick Rick, Kelly Quinn, Lewis, and attorney at law. Well, not right now, but he is an attorney, Robert Schuerger.
Sugar Daddy.
We're back.
So, a couple of people have brought up some interesting things. Steve said, what about the bill proposed in certain states that says if you kill a parent, you have to pay child support to the victim's kids?
Oh, if they're a parent.
Oh, I like that.
If you, off somebody who's a parent, you're taking care of their kids.
That'd come to play in
Yeah.
a lawsuit,
How
wouldn't it?
well are you going to do that in prison, though?
Good point.
It's a thought that counts.
I
in
mean,
this matter
I suppose
here.
if you have an estate, if you
yeah.
have some money, somehow.
But at least for the long term, they're on the hook for whatever means that they do have to help the family.
And then somebody else, the commander said, LED replacement lights that are 5 times as blinding as bright should be outlawed.
I agree. I hate those headlights. They're terrible.
Yeah, you flicker. You think they're bright. You flick, and then they're like, "Hold on, I'm not even. My brights aren't even
then
on."
they turn the brights on, and you're like, ah!
No comment.
Do you have LED lights?
In the Jeep? Oh. Yep. I don't have the I could guide a spaceship safely to Earth light bar on the top of my
I'll
Jeep
be the
like
judge
some
of that.
people do.
Okay. On the light bar. I
Yeah, I
gotcha.
don't have that.
That's annoying.
But anybody who's bought a Jeep will tell you that the factory lights absolutely suck. So you have to upgrade. So I upgraded. So there you go. Here's an interesting one for you from the sports world. The NFL owners, Commissioner Goodell, has told the media that a private investment into teams is making real progress. He said a decision could be made by the end of the year. Approved private firms will be allowed to invest in teams to help finance projects like stadium renovations and everything else. So basically, we're getting NIL in the NFL.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. If the players, we're going to see companies be able to invest money into players to help convince them to stay on a team while not affecting the salary cap.
Yeah, so like if an owner goes, I can only pay you $30 million a year, but, you know.
Now, normally they get around that with the endorsement deals to try
Right.
to entice them to stay.
Well, that would be what this is, but it would be somebody local who's a fan of the team who wants to, I know Marvin, or
Like
not
Donovan
Marvin
Mitchell in Cleveland, for example,
Yes.
who possibly
Yes.
could leave, but there'd be an extra incentive from maybe some Haslam or somebody big up.
Yeah.
on
I know the receiver, he's probably the best in the league, is Justin Jefferson with Minnesota. He's holding out right now. He's not taking part in OTAs or anything because he should be, and he should get a big fat new contract.
Well, I'll tell you, if Atlanta's paying Kirk Cousins what they're paying him, I think Justin Jefferson definitely deserves a contract like that.
But here's what I'm wondering. You think about, if you're a Green Bay Packer, there's not enough big companies in Green Bay where they're going to be able to compete with a New York or a Los Angeles or a Dallas. So aren't we going to end up going right back to where we used to be in the 80s where you've got the
parity.
haves and the have-nots and the parity goes away?
And the whole goal of the system that they set up was to allow parity to exist so you had a competitive structure.
Right.
Or else we're going to end up like we are in baseball. Where at the end, you're only going to have the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers.
What happens when the NIL shaming comes into play, though, where player number one over here gets the giant law firm that's behind them, and the guy over here is like, well, I've got, Fred's buy here, pay here car lot that's been hooking me up on the side.
And over here, it's like, I've got war for you.
Robert Schuerger, thank you for coming in with us. Always a pleasure to have you.
Every gang, it's always fun to come in. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to have you. Thanks, man.
Your Rockstar station, 99.7 The Blitz.
Definitely need to make it more often.
Absolutely, yes.
I keep his number on my phone just in
I'm
case.
always on speed dial.
I need to have you because at some point I'm going to need you.
Yeah.
Off the air.
I need the three of you guys to watch that Ashley Madison
Yeah,
documentary
I
because I'm
want to.
dying to talk about
There's
it.
a quiz.
Dying to
Is it,
talk
is
about
it
it.
on Netflix?
Netflix.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just 3 episodes. It's an easy watch, and it is wild.
All right, we'll definitely do that. Apple put out the greatest 100 music albums of all time. Number 1. I'm offended. We'll talk about it next.
Traffic.